Welcome to the Occult Rejects. We are two former secret society members who were determined to show the public the truth that occultism has been purposely integrated into every aspect of society, from politics to music, Hollywood, and science. This is used to manipulate the public as a whole and to protect the fake elite. The symbols are used all around us to affect world events and public perception, our behavior, and even our future. We will translate the occult so that you have eyes to see. We reject their agenda to give you the tools to save yourself.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Occult Rejects with your hosts Lux
and the NY Patriot.
And today we have one Bryan McClain, going to be talking about some really awesome subjects, including the FTX situation, Ukraine corruption, pretty much anything that we can kind of think of. So thanks for coming on, man.
Hey, I am glad to be back with you guys. It's wonderful to be here, and yeah, looking forward to it. I was telling NY before the show, we were kind of talking about my my TNT show, and it's a Monday through Friday, 3 hours a day, and I'm used to putting a lot of broadcast hours in during the week, you know, and mostly audio. That's kind of how we got started, was audio podcasting and live streaming at alternatecurrentradio.com. But it's been quite the change to do such an aggressive live streaming schedule. So 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, full on, and one interview and one news production piece per hour usually. So it's been I'm super caught up on all of whatever the hashtag current things and crises are for the most part, as much as I can be, moving at that pace. So yeah, excited to talk to you guys about anything in the current event sphere or whatever, the COVIDocracy or geopolitics, World War III, nuclear meltdown, anything like that. I'm game. I'm game, guys.
I guess before we get started, where can everybody find you, like socials and stuff like that?
All right, so I'm not super active on the socials, but on Twitter I am at Hesher Media, and same on Instagram. Those are probably the two where I see the most stuff and see the most messages. You can also find me on the web at alternatecurrentradio.com. It's got all the contact links and bios and all that stuff up there, and links to all the other shows that we live stream and curate podcasts for. So you can check us out over there, and there's a link to our Discord over there. And then for my Monday to Friday show, that's tntradio.live. That's where people can find me over there. And I'm live from 9 a.m. Central to noon Central. So do the math for wherever you're at these days. Yeah.
Definitely, I highly suggest to go check out the TNT radio because I've been on it. So, but I will even say for an internet radio at that time, well, and I'm not saying it's because of the commercials and you only have an hour, but honestly, it felt like 15 minutes with you because I had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun. It was just great. I really do suggest to go check out his shows that aren't, don't have me in it as well. You know what I'm saying? It's a cool thing.
We'll get you back in there soon too, man. Maybe even fun. This week. I don't know what your week's looking like, but let's get you on over there too. And Lux, you're welcome to come on sometime as well.
Thank you, sir. That website is awesome looking, by the way.
Yeah, they're super professional, man. It's a really professional organization. I mean, they've got pieces in place.
I don't think they made that with Canva. That's what I was thinking. I'm like, I don't think any of that digital that art is like, it's pretty impressive. I do have to say.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Very well put together. Yeah. Well, there's another company out there that's doing something similar. I won't name them, but I was like, dude, TNT is like what this other platform wants to be. It's just so well put together, man.
Yeah. Hats off to them. They're great.
So with all the fuckery in the world, where should we start?
So much fuckery. I think that probably the appropriate place to start is this whole this new character. He's not really new. We've been seeing him pop up here and there, but you didn't really think much of him. These little tech billionaires and cryptocurrency weirdos popping up everywhere, and they get kind of overshadowed by the Elon Musks and Jeff Bezoses of the world, right? So, but all of a sudden, this Sam Bankman-Fried is big in the news. Well, the news is trying to make it so that he's not big in the news, at least the mass media. But yeah, there's a huge scandal unraveling, and I'm saying it's as big or bigger than, or maybe the financial equivalent to like a Jeff Epstein's style, just, meltdown from above, just all kind of rackets, potential rackets and crime rings starting to show themselves, and really sketchy AF money trails and cryptocurrency scandals, and I mean, you name it. There's all kind of weird stuff going on with this Sam Bankman-Fried character. And then you start looking into like his family and his business partners and how he's been placed in the media next to Zelensky himself. It's really quite the story, and I think they're kind of downplaying it and distracting it. It seems like, but he's similar to like a Bill Gates in the sense that he's got tens of millions of dollar handouts that he and his subsidiaries can give to mass media cartel outlets like Vox, for example, who are softballing this story for him right now.
Yeah. And for those who might not have too much of like a background, on this whole situation, essentially it's this wonderkin, he comes out of nowhere, son of a pretty predominant professor and or lawyer. And then out of nowhere, he gets all of this money. He started this coin exchange for Bitcoin. I mean, and it's just, nobody knows where he gets the money, but essentially it's billions and billions of dollars. And then one day, and this is what I wanted to talk to you about, man. Do you think that the way that this company was outed is organic? Is in the sense that the only reason why they found out that FTX didn't have the amount of money that they claimed that they did, because they were harboring this money in a sister company, right? But then the way that it gets exposed is that another coin exchange and its founder start to say, pretty much, we're going to pull a lot of our money out of FTX. And then it comes out that FTX can't even support the amount of money that, they would be owed if they took out all of their stocks.
Oh,
right.
Or all their coins.
It's amazing, right? I mean, it is the cryptocurrency equivalent of a bank run, like a fire sale and a bank run all happening at once. So for people that aren't super crypto savvy, and I'm one of you, so I'm doing my best with all the jargon and understanding, trying to make sure I'm analyzing this right. But the exchange itself, so this exchange functions sort of like a bank in the sense that people put stuff there and they hold stuff there. Unfortunately, this has been a lesson for a lot of people not to leave their holdings in an exchange, because we now know that some of these exchanges, like this one, there's no SEC oversight over this at all, which, may or may not be a good thing, arguably, depending on the direction of cryptocurrency and the battle between regulated central banking digital cryptocurrency and cryptocurrency kind of by and for the people, right? So that's where the big push and pull is right now. So this guy basically got all these investors, right? Took all this money, started it with a certain amount of money, built the exchange, and then got all these investors. And I mean, we're talking big names involved, like Super Bowl commercials, Tom Brady, like big celebrities and sports figures getting sued now and stuff like that, being looked at for promoting this thing, which turns out to have been a big scam, basically. And that's sort of where it is. And with regards to your question, does it feel organic? It's hard to say, man. I mean, it's possible that it's as simple as you laid out. Another company started looking into the liquidity of this crypto and said, well, wait a minute, this business over here, like the large percentage of their holdings are all this stuff, and is that not the polyamorous girlfriend of this guy working at this corporation over here? Hey, what's going on? Let's start pulling money out and see what happens. That's very likely, but it's also likely that maybe they got a tap on the shoulder or a whisper in the ear and said, hey, don't you move all this stuff and see what happens? You know, you want to have a good time, want to see your crypto value dip and then rise suddenly. Try this. So that could be a thing, man, because they're potentially going to use this or something like this as a happy accident they can benefit from, or something that, you know, they can pull a piece out of the Jenga pile and say, oh, well, you people with your crypto, you're defrauding people. We don't have the SEC in here the way we want. We don't have the central banks in here the way we want. So we're going to solve this by bringing in central banking digital currency. And what do you know? There's some announcements about, you know, new programs for that they're premiering, you know, basically while all this is happening in the background right now. So, you know, coincidence? It's hard to say.
Yeah, I think that's very. I was even thinking, I'm like, what if somebody just like whispered in their ear? I'm like, oh, this is just a way to take them down. I mean, and the reason why I was laughing so much is when I was thinking about this, is because Chris from Rantcast, you may not know him, but our listeners know who he is. He's been on our show. I've been on his. Chris from Rantcast. I'm not going to mention the place, the site, but there is a site that pays its people in crypto. Chris isn't on it, but me and him, he somehow, I don't know how, figured out the way to convert, because unfortunately the way it pays you, you're going to have to convert it like fucking 2 times, I think, before you can even start putting it in your bank account and using it. So nobody collects it. They just let it sit there. And he knows how to actually do it. And I said to him as a joke once, I said, I guarantee you, if you got half the shows on that site and showed them how to do this, that site would be dead, because it probably can't even pay out what the fuck it owes, and it would go down.
You know what's funny? I could probably be a test case for this, because I am quite literally one of those people you're talking about that sees those emails coming through and go, oh, I got some stuff in this wallet over here. Too bad I don't know how to fucking access it. I'm absolutely one of
that's
those
what
people,
sucks,
man.
is that some of those sites that do pay in crypto, it's like nobody, unless it's like something that you can like pretty much use like off the bat, nobody fucking collects it. And it's like, you know,
and well, to their credit,
take it, it's yours. Take the 10 minutes to read and take that shit.
Right. And to their credit, like there's you know, it's on us, the crypto wallet holders, to figure out how to do that and take the time to figure out how to do that. But I have been, this is sort of a side note here, but I have been very interested in the podcasting 2.0 concept and framework that
I've heard a lot of people say good things about
Adam
it.
Curry talks a lot about. He's heavily involved in it. And, you know, I feel like we've been shadow banned quite a bit, and that is just, you know, increasing regardless of Elon Musk owning Twitter now. I see the shadow banning and algorithmic, you know, shaming and all this stuff continuing. So I'm really keen to be existing in that blockchain environment, that decentralized blockchain environment. And the whole concept, for anyone that doesn't know, behind podcasting 2.0 is that currently the podcast indexes are basically owned by Apple and Google. So if someone wants to apply any sort of shadow ban to you, and this is outside of YouTube has its own, you know, we know how they feel about these things. But, you know, and those are centralized indexes, right? So if people are searching for you or searching for SEO or hashtag stuff that's attached to your podcast, there's a good chance they're never going to find it, or that it can be taken down because it's kind of on a, you know, single point of failure. Whereas the podcasting 2.0 index exists in a, you know, distributed manner, and it's decentralized, and there's no central company that can apply anything, you know, any banning or anything like that. So, but the thing, and there's ways to monetize those podcasts too, but they're all the same way. Like you can use the Fountain app, and there's a tipping feature in there, but you have to go through the birthing pains of figuring out a new wallet, a new freaking token, a new way to manage that token, and then, you know, spend the time watching the graphs and, you know, figuring out if you want to stake it on their exchange and all this stuff. You know what I mean? It's like a whole nother set of things that one has to do, but I can't like shame it completely, because I see it as like a fundamental piece of where we can go to maintain our freedom of speech and be free from algorithmic and shadow ban sort of chicanery, but double-edged sword, because that stuff is not it's not really for your average Joe, sitting there just trying to listen to a frickin' podcast or do a frickin' podcast and be left the frick alone by stupid, matrix algorithms and shadow bans and all this other crap.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have looked into that podcasting 2.0. I got to check that out again. I've had many people tell me that I really should check that out. I think even Oddman was telling me about it.
Well, you know what? I got my eye on it for you guys, man. And if you get into it and you get, versed on it, let me know where you're at, because I'm going to keep an eye on it, because I really feel like we're going to need to be able to know when and how to switch over to that kind of stuff when the censorship gets worse, because I do expect it to probably get worse, but we'll see. I don't know. Even YouTube right now seems to be a little bit more allowing of conversations that they weren't just a year ago, which I find a little bit intriguing. I'm just kind of surprised by that. But
and not to advertise this guy, I mean, I mentioned his name enough already. You probably know who he is. Tim Pool. Whatever, I have my opinion. I'll admit it, for some reason I have to watch the dude, but I don't really care for him, but I'm addicted to his show. And it's I put it on because it's I want to know the propaganda that's going around out there. But he did show one show I really highly suggest for people to go watch. He does have a show where he shows what the rules were around the scandemic time and how they changed overnight, drastically, one day. And he's like, what happened with that? Why? It's just very interesting because it makes you wonder, did that change because they realized that was bullshit? You know what I'm saying? It's just very interesting how they, even things like you said a year or two ago that you would have gotten knocked off real quick, fucking head chopped off without a thought, you can get away with now.
Well, and I also think a lot of that,
except for us.
Yeah, we get kicked off no matter what.
Yeah, inciting violence when we're talking about God. I don't know how the fuck that happens.
And I think a lot of it really is psychological warfare on people who are trying to create content. Because when you go to the YouTube or you go to whatever platform you like and you're trying to upload a video, you're like, well, shit, I couldn't say this the other day. Oh, man, can I upload this episode? Are the terms and services still the same? Maybe it's changed, and you can hear it in podcasts. And I'm not saying that I'm exempt from it, but people will self-censor themselves all the time because they're too worried that one word could give them a strike, and so we're self-censoring. And I think a lot of the reason why they do this change of terms of services is to fuck with people's minds.
Yeah.
Right. It provides, it puts people in a state of what they call the Wonderland effect. So it's you're down the rabbit hole, and you'll basically do anything to return to some sort of normalcy. And most of us grew up in a world where we expressed ourselves freely all the time. It was just something we did. And now it's oh, am I going to lose this platform? Am I going to lose this account that, to some people, they don't really understand how much work it takes to foster some accounts and fill them with content and interact with audiences there. And, lucky you if you've monetized it in some way, that becomes a whole thing that hangs in the balance. Right. And, they make you follow the bouncing ball of what you assume their amorphous terms of services may or may not mean. And you're looking to your right and your left to see who's been banned and who's been kicked off for what, and looking at your emails and your strikes and going, okay, this is the calculus. I can try to take it to here, and I can.
Yeah, you can't get it 3 strikes in 90 days. And then you start trying to calculate, well, maybe I should hold off on dropping stuff. Maybe. Yeah, it's horrible. Exactly. Why should I be worried about that? When technically, I still think I'm going by the rules anyway.
Right. But it's they drag you along that all the way through Trump, and then, through COVID, and then through Vaxism, and then through whatever, just follow that. And they change it all the time. And then people are just I'll just do anything to have my voice back. I'll just do, I'll say whatever, I'll do whatever. Can we just get on with it, you know. And I think with regards to this recent, like, sort of dial back that they've done, it's probably because it's now that we're where we are in the timeline with the COVIDs and the vaxes and everything, like all the information's out there for the most part, the good, the bad, the ugly, the fake and the real is all sitting there, and they're now sanctioned to politicize it on mass media, that YouTube and other platforms, like, they see these are the topics people are interested in right now, and they don't want to lose out on that click money, because it's already, the mainstream's already making money on the, you know, polarization and politicization, now that they're sort of in the tail end of the fear campaign. Like, we don't have a 24/7 death ticker on the side of the news anymore. So, you know, they got to get in on that money for, like, conversations like this one that, you know, they just could not have allowed a year and a half ago.
Mm-hmm. And it, like I said, it always changes, but it seems like those rules, when they change and they're implemented, that they only affect podcasts or shows like ours. For example, not long ago, me and NY covered some different things that were appearing on YouTube, regular YouTube, and it was some of the most disgusting content that I've ever seen. And YouTube, they provide the captions for this show and the channel. They know what's being done and said there on that channel, and that's able to stay up for years with hundreds of thousands of views. And you mean to tell me that the algorithm can pick out when NY and I say something that has nothing to do with violence, but yet they'll strike us? So, and they don't even tell you what it is that you said. And then meanwhile, this other channel can be making content for years, and they don't get taken down or a strike.
Yo, this is the craziest thing, and this is proof right here what you said about mentally fucking with people. Because even when he recorded, it was for his show, but we did it together. I jumped on with him. Plus, I was really interested in this too myself because I knew what he was going with. We covered the thing. We did not say anything about occultism, so you can't even say that we're grasping at stuff. We literally were just showing the existence of the channel and some of the things it says. We were just really just showing the channel and bringing awareness to it. Me and him, we're still scared to drop it on YouTube.
Yeah.
Even though those channels exist on YouTube, we were still too afraid to put that out because that might get a strike.
Right.
Even though, like, all we were really doing was advertising another channel, technically. Mm-hmm. But, like, you know, we were, and, like, what the fuck? Why we should not be fucked up like that? And we shouldn't have to worry about that.
Mm-hmm. And it may not even be that topic. It may be like the body of work, more or less. Like, that topic may be okay for other people, but if other people had the same, like, wider perspective as you guys, where they are talking about that topic, you know, that then it becomes a problem. And I've seen them do that with numbers too. They do this with subs on YouTube, on Instagram, and on Facebook, where it's like they'll encourage you to come in and bring a group of interested people to your to follow your account until you get to a certain number. And on Instagram, it appears to be 1,200. And on YouTube, it appears to be 50,000 is the mark where they start dropping you, unless they don't want you to get anywhere. I think some people are just, you know, doomed from the get-go, and they get, you know, capped at a certain amount. But we know some YouTubers that are up there, you know, and they've been sitting there at, like, you know, that 49,000 number for years and years and years. So it's like, you know, they have all these different little tricks they do to you know, de-amplify a lot of people.
You know what I've also seen on YouTube that I thought was like a little weird. This is getting, I guess, a little occultish or maybe conspiratorial. But it's funny how you were just mentioning numbers of subs, and I do see what you're getting at. There is like certain almost kind of like if you don't get past that, or if you do, you know, I do think there's different consequences or whatever. But I've also noticed on a lot of channels, even people that I've had on my show who have big channels, I have noticed that there is like a 3 million also. A lot of shows that it's like, why are they all at 3 million? Like, I don't know. That just is weird to me too. I mean, that's a ridiculous amount. You're talking about 50,000, but there is a few channels that have come across that it's all like 3 million fucking subs. And I'm like,
that's weird.
Is it all the same people? Like, what's the odds?
Yeah. Did they pack it with bots and then level it somewhere or something?
Yeah,
like
or it's just something wrong with those. I don't know. Not accusing the shows either. It just seems weird, you know.
It's problematic for YouTube Central too, I imagine, because they have to, once you hit 50,000, they have to send you that plaque and everything. You know what I mean? So it's like you kind of have the company endorsement once you hit that number. So I think that's probably one of the floodgates people can't get past. But it's interesting because they're like your Steven Crowders and your Tim Pools and, you know, those blue checkmark type of people, Hollywood adjacent people, comedians, stuff like that. Like they'll let them, you know, amp up and rank up. You know, it's weird to see the way they kind of deal with those audiences too.
Well, you know, to think about it, I think Tim Pool, not his private, but his actual show ones, he has, I think, 3 different ones. I think the other ones are at 3 million too, and his private ones are like 1.5. I think I did hear him say that recently. So there's another 3. Yeah. Very weird.
Maybe 3 million people at once vibing on the same internet personality is the threshold. The powers that be are like, okay, we've modeled this out in our computer simulations, and if we have more than 3 million nerds sitting in their mom's basement listening to a guy like Tim Pool at once, we have this 100th monkey effect where people start to wake up all across the planet. So we got to cap it at 3 million. Okay. So YouTube Central, you guys stop doing genetic testing and sending the American genome to China, and make sure to cap all these shows at 3 million. Okay.
Yeah. And then it cracks me up with the fact that, you know, when we're trying to make content, any single thing that we say, like we've said before, we'll get a strike, and there's nothing we can do about it, nothing we can say. We can write an appeal, but we're never going to hear from YouTube, and they're striking us because we're doing disinformation, right? Things that aren't accurate because it's been double checked by this organization or this one. So we get held accountable. Just regular people who are creating a podcast, we get held accountable, but the AP can run an article saying that Russia just threw a missile into Poland, which turned out to be fake and not true, and the AP doesn't. Where's their fucking? Their strike? Where's their strike, man? Where's their 2-week fucking?
Yeah,
that shit blew me away that day. I was like, yo, we straight went from Russia may have attacked Poland. Holy fuck. Even the Republicans are being like, oh, let's go to war. You know, and to, an unfortunate, Ukraine. So sorry.
Oops. It's
like almost like, oh, thank God.
we thought South was North. Sorry about that, guys. Sorry. Sorry. Whoops.
I was like, yo, just within hours, the mind fuckery on that. It was
insane.
There
was no sorry. They're still trying to blame it on Russia. Then now that you hear the latest one, they're like, okay, well, even though that was a misfire by Ukraine, it's still Russia's fault for starting all this aggression and making them have to defend themselves. Accidentally lob S-300s into Poland and kill 2 farmers. Oh, great job, guys. Great job defending democracy over there. We're super chuffed to be sending you 50, 60 billion, 90 billion, whatever dollars you're getting. I hope you got a lot of FTT coins with that, with my tax dollars.
And let's think about how, okay, so if you and I, we make a podcast and something in it is wrong or inaccurate, that's one thing. But when it's about to start World War III, I think that they should have some type of consequences, because it's a very scary place where people like us, we can't have a voice, but the AP can nearly start World War III, and they're totally exempt from any type of repercussions.
Mm-hmm. They did the same thing with the Paul Pelosi attack, man. They came out with this event. And then they came out with this narrative just days before the midterm elections, and they tell everybody this whole narrative. And then 2 days later, the narrative changes again. And then over the weekend, it changes a third time. And midweek, the next week, elections, it gets a little bit quiet. And now they're saying badge cam footage is going to come out and it's going to change the narrative again. And it's just like they're suppressing people from being able to talk about this while they're leading a narrative that keeps changing. Is like we're the mainstream media is doing that with this case, and the DA and the chief of police in San Francisco, they all seem to just stand there and smile and say, well, it's, we got to wait and see what's in the federal report here, guys, right? We're going to hold off on comments, but it's just amazing to watch them politicize some stories and then make other ones, just kind of slide under the radar, which I think is what they're trying to do with the FTX story, and that's probably why we're hearing today that CBS has now verified Hunter Biden's laptop. I suppose we're allowed to talk about that now that 2 years later, now that CBS has verified it.
It's so funny. You were talking before, and I was literally thinking about that, and I'm like, and like, whatever, it is what it is. I don't trust any of the news, really. So, I shit on the libtards. Unfortunately, I'm going to shit on the right now. I've constantly hear about this laptop from two sources, Fox News and the Post. They're a bunch of nothing burgers. When is this ever going to happen? I've been hearing for 2 years. Prior to the election, Fox had Bobulinski, whatever his fucking name is, on there fucking telling the fucking story. I mean, come on, man. Is this ever going to happen, or is the news actually literally the right dragging this shit out? You know what I'm saying?
You gotta.
I'd love to see it happen, though, and I'm sure it's probably actually true. I just feel like, yes, this is what happened, and nothing's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right, and I think one of the reasons that they dragged that old thing out today, and
Trump's running again. He needs something to point at it again too when he comes back.
Right. Well, we gotta have that happening, and there's now this this dialectic happening between the House Republicans now opening up their little investigation. At the same time, we've got Senate Democrats opening more Trump investigations. It's just like they're already telegraphing that it's just going to be nothing but lawfare and stage managed conflicts between the two power politics sides, and they're definitely showing us what it's going to look like.
I think the shit show on the TV and the shit shows on the social media is going to be nothing like we've probably ever seen before. For this next one.
It's going to be ludicrous. It's going to be absolutely freaking ludicrous. And I think the thing that's going to happen with Hunter is they're going to just launder this thing through the Senate committee or the House committee or whatever legal, machination they want to run it through, whatever sausage grinder, DC sausage grinder they're going to stick it in. And it's basically going to come out like they're going to stick to his taxes, and they're going to stick to his stupid firearms form where he checked the wrong box. And they're not going to talk about all these videos with dubiously aged women who we have no names or, welfare checks on, and, the various white powders and glass devices and torches and all this stuff. And I'm going to kind of go out on a limb and guess that's probably going to just all be inadmissible in any sort of investigation, because he's probably working under contract with some company that keeps those kind of things inadmissible. So it's like they can just, whitewash the entire thing, put him in some Gucci gulag for 30 days and fine him $10 million. And it's just like, Sleepy Joe says, you can't fuck with the Bidens.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then all the stuff from Burisma, right. Sure, we're not going to see any of that information come out, especially with the ties to Ukraine and the situations that are happening now in Ukraine. We won't see that. We'll see a couple pictures of him with a crack pipe, and everybody will get all upset about it, but forget the deeper repercussions of what was happening there.
Right, it'll be great outrage can click porn, and it'll be great material for the Senate committee and the House committee and the Oversight committee and Intel committee. Like they can spin up all this kinetic energy and just watch the ice cream cone lick itself up there in DC, and we're sitting here just going, well, wait a minute, what happened to that $90 billion? Why is gas so expensive? We said how many $1 billion over there? Like, we voted for what? We voted for who? What, another pandemic? What do you mean the WHO's in charge? It's just like there's so many things we could and should be focused on if we had any serious, political parties but we can't even get past the part where it's like, was that an actual fair vote? Like, did they do that right? You know, like we can't even have that discussion anymore. So, you know, it's pretty interesting to watch it all kind of just fall apart in the wake of all that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I wanted to ask you before, and unfortunately kind of going backwards now, but I do want your opinion just on, I guess, Bitcoin itself and shit like that. What do you even think about cryptocurrency?
Oh, man. I early on, myself and some of my friends had opportunity to buy like entire Bitcoins for like $80 or something like that, you know? And we were all just like, no way, that's stupid. I'm not blowing $80 on one of those. And, you know, then over the years, all of a sudden you're looking at them and like, whoa, if that person that had those to go around, if they held on to any of those, all of a sudden you're like, where'd that guy go? He might be a, you know, multi-millionaire by now. So it's been interesting to watch it sort of develop from just, you know, its budding format into this thing that it now has multiple exchanges, and, you know, users have the ability to come in and create their own stuff and their own coins and all that. And I don't know, it's been really interesting. I've had a number of different theories about it, and I'm still not super solid on it, but I don't interact with it a whole lot, like only enough to know just the bare minimum, and, you know, have a couple bucks just sitting there in an exchange just to, you know, hedge it and see what the heck happens. And, you know, it's not enough to buy a car with, and it's probably not even enough to pay a month's worth of rent at this point. But I do watch it a little bit and try to engage and keep an eye on it so that I can understand it. And I do think that it has great potential, like many things, like the internet itself. It has massive potential if it was to be used properly and not abused by criminal cartel governments and, you know, Fortune 100 companies. Because I really think, like, as beneficial as it has been and the potential that it does have, it's also like there are these career criminal agencies out there that are like, oh, you guys are doing this, cool, well, I'm gonna just, you know, buy up all this stuff and let it sit over here. Like, you got to wonder how many corporations are holding, like, I saw a report earlier today that Ruckus sent me. It said like 75% of all BTC Bitcoin is being held by like companies. So it's like,
Ooh.
interesting. So
That's
you guys
scary.
are just sort of like grabbing and staking stuff on ledgers and hardware drives and stuff like that. Like, imagine the potential there, like, and what are all the governments could be doing right now too. Like, what if all, or like half, or I don't know, some percentage of these crypto exchanges are functioning the same way that FTX was, and they're being abused in similar ways, you know, and there's not liquidity across them, and they've got politicians and, you know, international bankers keeping the SEC off their back while they move and shift resources around. And what was COVID? I mean, it was a lot of things, but it was also great cover for a giant consolidation of resources, which, you know, we saw happen on Wall Street. Why would it not be? Why would these Wall Street people and people projecting towards the Great Reset not use any loopholes in the crypto exchange systems to bank wealth moving into a time when they know that people won't be buying luxury items? You know, what's Gucci Corporation going to do when the dollar crashes? Maybe they spent the last 10 years banking Bitcoin.
Oh.
Maybe that'll get shifted over into CBDC, and they come in slicker than snot, and we all come in with like, I have 5,000 fiat dollars, sir. How many CBDs may I get for my last 5,000 fiat dollars? Goodbye. Goodbye, 5,000 fiat dollars. I'll have to buy my marijuana with CBDC now, and everyone will know.
It does. It definitely feels that way. Like it's some type of slow, inevitable march that they're trying to get us to go towards the digital dollar. You know, so of course that it's a whole situation. They're setting it up so that there'll be more regulation on Bitcoin. And mark my words, in the next 10 to 20 years, it'll be all digital. Every currency that is exchanged worldwide will be digital.
Oh man,
and this is the precursor to it.
And you
that's scary shit. I think
and
so.
you think you can go down and buy yourself a Remington 870 at the gun shop with some CBDC, you might be wrong. You might be sorely mistaken.
Exactly.
Damn.
You want to buy space on a podcasting platform. You might be sorely, you know what I mean? Like your CBDC may not do the same stuff my CBDC does because of social credit. And that social credit is going to be attached to your carbon credit too. They're premiering that right now. They have these credit cards that track your carbon footprint for your spending life and apply social credit to you, basically. So just imagine where that all converges, you know, when fiat currency falls apart, which, you know, it very well could in a fuel crisis or a larger scale war or a supply chain crisis or a pandemic. Do any of those sound familiar?
Right.
Guys?
Yeah, this reminds me of a Black Mirror movie show.
Yeah.
Did you ever see that where I think like basically like your social score kind of like affected like your whole like, you know, how important you were? And then if you want to think about it on a smaller level, I was thinking about that while you were talking, and then I was like, oh, that kind of sounds like Twitter now too. Like if you think about it. Oh yeah, well if it's kind of fucked up, people just won't see it. I mean, that's what he said, basically.
Yeah.
Well, not even if it's maybe fucked up. It's just if you don't even pay. You could say the nicest things in the world and it still won't get boosted because you didn't pay the $8.
That's true.
And
Right.
I mean, take a look at what China already has this system rolled out. They have a credit score that affects the way that you live your life. If you're a naughty boy or girl, and suddenly you can't get on the train anymore. That's a real thing in China right now. And I mean, if that ever were to come to the United States, I mean, I think it would come in this form in just a very slow progression. You won't see it coming.
It's simply they called it exactly what it is. Like we already have that in Western society, but it's super mellow. It's called your credit score. All right. If your credit score sucks, there's some things you're not eligible for. Like right now, if I wanted to go buy a house, they'd probably say, you know what, your credit score isn't great. Yeah, you should keep renting. But this, when you add social to credit score, it becomes everything about you. It's about what you say. It's about how you dress. It's about how you're perceived. It's about what you don't say, what you keep in, the decisions you make. Are you going to eat the lab-based soy slop with all the estrogen, GMO estrogen in it? Or are you going to get a grass-fed hamburger, right? Because if you get the grass-fed hamburger, while you still can, your credit score, your credit card will show that, and your credit score will dip. And before you know it, you're not going to be able to get on the Uber or the Lyft anymore because you as a customer will be rated 1 star or 0.3 star, and nobody will stop to pick you up because you ate the burger instead of the soy slop.
Damn. Yeah, that's wild. There'd be a lot of. I wonder if like a lot of people would have balls enough to be, I guess, like almost like prohibition, like in a sense. Like, you know, I would hope that, like, I mean, even if those. You see, that's another thing. Like, I'm not agreeing. Like, I think that is completely fucked up. But then, like, a lot of times you also have to think, like, okay, even if you make those laws up, do we technically actually have to listen completely? You know what I'm saying? So, like, I'm not justifying those laws existing, but I do think sometimes you can figure out, I guess this is the magician in me, how to still maneuver and do what you want to do and, you know, enjoy yourself with certain boundaries, you know, whatever.
Yeah,
I mean, it would suck. It would suck. It would totally change the world. It's like I got to go to my boy's place because when I ask for a fucking soy burger, he knows I want a regular fucking burger. You know, it'd suck to have to do that. But you know what I'm saying? I'm sure shit like that would go around. I mean, even over by me, the local gym, when COVID came around, there was like, they didn't fucking bow to the CDC. I'll just put it that way.
Yeah.
You know? And they actually got away with it. Nobody ever said anything.
Right.
You know?
Well, and that's going to maintain and continue until they're able to complete their digital dragnet, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
that's why people right now are talking about parallel societies and parallel systems, which is kind of what you're saying, you know, like but in that example, it's a little bit more organic, neighborly, you know, sort of community style. But like at this point, people are thinking, okay, this part of California needs to secede from the union or create its own state. You know what I mean? And people are like, okay, we need to, as a group of like-minded individuals, go buy 5,000 acres in Montana and set up a culture of our own, and, you know, have a butcher, a baker, a candlestick maker, and all those things, so we can just let the rest of this stuff implode. We'll just be fine out here. Like, it's to that level, unfortunately. And that's what people are doing and thinking. So it's really interesting to see how that all works. But they're making it more difficult to do stuff like that when they, if they're really threatening fiat, and if they're threatening, you know, Bitcoin and cryptocurrency with, you know, full oversight of the central banks. That's when stuff starts to get real for those parallel societies, because it's like, then you're, you know, trading, you know, tallow for lipstick, or tallow for painkillers, or I don't know, bullets for seeds and stuff like that. And it's like, I don't know, is that a parallel society, or is that, it's really not, because you lose, yeah, you lose access to like all the amenities of modern society. It's just like, I don't know if the Quakers are going to have all of us that just don't agree with the New World Order's plan. There'd be too many furniture makers.
Yeah, moving to Amish country.
Right.
Right. Oh, if only they would have us. I don't think they will, fellas.
I think one of the big things about this whole FTX situation is I keep hearing people talk about the founder, but I haven't heard many people talk about who he was donating to, because, you know, these are political campaigns on both the right and the left. I mean, he gave a ton of money to Maxine Waters. Let's see, I got other ones pulled up here. Oh, he was the second biggest donor to the Democrat Party, besides George Soros.
Right? Isn't that crazy? I mean, that's huge. That in and of itself, like, we're talking about the second largest donor to the Democratic Party here, and in this enormous potential scandal. And it's like, no, let's talk about Hunter's laptop today. Let's let CBS chew on Hunter's laptop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you get $40 million to Open Secrets, another like Democratic think tank thing. He gave money to Dick Durbin, Ruben Gallio out of Arizona, and then he gave $27 million to Protect Our Future, which is a Democratic group.
Is that the one his mom runs? One of these big PACs is one that his mom runs, and they do like some sort of I don't know, political action campaigning, like against Republicans in California or something like that, out of Stanford. I can't recall. And then his brother was pouring hundreds of millions into media outlets to quash stories on COVID, I believe. There was something like putting either pro-big pharma messages out or quashing anti-big pharma messages, whole bunch of money there. Mm-hmm. It's like, that's some pretty calculated money spending right there. And if it's true, you know, and that's the thing here, we're still trying to verify this, but by all accounts from the whistleblowers here, it appears as though American cash was sent to Ukraine, and Ukraine then used some of that cash to buy FTT tokens on the FTX exchange and use that as the method to donate to many of these causes. So like, people are wondering at this point, okay, so was that quite literally that's what laundering is, right? Like, if you use crypto instead of a shell corporation or whatever, you're using a shell country with crypto, no oversight crypto exchange that's allegedly worth tens of billions of dollars. I mean, it sounds pretty shady, man. It sounds really shady. Take, you know, billions of dollars, send it over there, some percentage they buy this token with. They use that token to fund all those things you just listed and more. and there's no audit, there's no oversight, there's nothing. I mean, they quite literally created American debt out of thin air. If this is all true, sent it to a proxy country where, they've had a hand in not stopping a war. I won't say starting a war. I'll say not stopping a war, because there are plenty of opportunities for that to have happened if the Minsk Accords would have been followed, if they would have been encouraged to follow the Minsk Accords instead of encouraged to stall, as Poroshenko just admitted recently, while building up an army. This could have all been avoided. But anyway, that's a whole nother story. But then that money comes right back in fake crypto. Well, actual crypto that is not liquid. They have no, you know what I mean, aside from the fake money or the money, tax money that they created out of thin air and sent over there. Boom. That's the only time it was quote unquote real.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then this guy was like living on an island in the Bahamas while all this is happening, and he was having giant sex orgies all the time.
Living it up. Polyamory.
The Bahamas take, I mean, this could be a total stretch, but I do remember one time I was looking into some stuff with music, and a bunch of bands recorded that it's an old show, I covered a bunch of bands that all had certain type of symbolism. The same, spiral shit, all that weird symbolism in their videos, and noticed that they all would record at this recording studio in the Bahamas. Now, I don't know if this has anything to do with what Lux is getting at, but I remember that I looked into it, and it was weird that the Bahamas have no problem. Like some countries, if you are a registered pedophile in the United States, they won't even accept you. You can't even come visit. Bahamas, no problem. I didn't know if that had anything to do with it, but at least for my episode, I thought it may have. But I don't know if that's the same thing with here, but I just remember that.
Well, and I guess didn't he try to leave the country but was caught before he could get to the Bahamas? I don't know. I've heard a bunch of different things about this recently where he knew that he was about to get caught, so he tried to hijack it or hightail it out of the country.
Yeah, I'm a little bit confused about the timeline when, once he filed Chapter 11 and put, the tweets out saying, I effed up or whatever he said, so trying to figure that out too. I noticed there was a New York Times sponsored event that was set for, when was it? I feel like it's near the end of the month. And he's labeled as one of the speakers there, along with Vladimir Zelensky. Who else? There was a whole crazy cast of, big time people like Van Jones, Zelensky himself. I think maybe Bezos, Zuckerberg was there, or scheduled to be there. It's some sort of New York Times. I think it's called New York Times. I can't recall. I have a link somewhere. I'll see if I can find it while we're chatting here. But he's labeled as a speaker at this event. It costs $2,400 to get a seat at this event, and what is that? This is days after the whole thing collapsed and all this, the speculation started coming out about what was going on. And he's still sitting there. Last I looked, at least on Thursday and Friday, he was listed as a speaker at this event next to these people. It's crazy.
That is fucking crazy.
I assume they're all zooming in. I don't think Zelensky's gonna, be helicoptering in or parachuting in from the DMZ and giving a speech. But still, it's just wow, $2,400 a table, and there's Sam Bankman sitting there right next to Zelensky on the roster. It's just bizarre.
Come flying in like Iron Man or some shit.
Yeah, exactly. The hero landing.
Oh yeah. You gotta have a fist on the ground or something, on one of your knees or some shit.
One knee and one fist.
He's coming back down to Earth on the ass end of one of Musk's rocket ships.
Exactly.
Fuck my life. No.
Re-entry.
SpaceX.
Somebody's got to drive that Tesla spacecraft junk. Someone's got to drive it back here to Earth. Why not?
Since we're back to him again, what do you think is up with the whole thing with Twitter?
I don't know, man. I mean,
it's on most accounts. I think it's doesn't seem like it's a good thing. I honestly could care less because I don't know if it will really affect us because we're not a big account. But I mean, I guess that could be a problem if we ended up being one. But like, I do. What's your opinion? I do think it's kind of fucking. It just doesn't make sense to me.
I find it a little bit baffling, but
Yes,
I'm trying to take a lighthearted view on it. Like, and I'm just entertained now that the algorithm is kind of like relaxed just a little bit. And like, that's all I really wanted. Like, people thought, oh, Elon's going to come and save us. He's going to be the new patron of free speech. And I was just like, if you could just please remove the shadow bans and remove the algorithms and like level that playing field so that we can kind of get some sort of, you know, barometer on what the quote unquote public square might actually think. You know, that's a good start for me. And that in and of itself has been enough to cause infinite liberal tears and many people losing their jobs who only worked 4 hours a week, you know, banning people and shit posting. So like, I've found that all actually pretty entertaining. Elon is sort of like the new Donald, you know, he's like that person on Twitter that just, everybody's always talking about it. But the fact that he is still he still has these lists and like he's not going to let Alex Jones back on, for example. There's like he's still using sort of that liberal tactic of having like emotional reasons or narrative reasons to not let people back in. So I don't know, it's kind of a mixed bag. And then there's the whole thing where I just don't trust that guy in general. And, you know, knowing how he feels about transhumanism and what he's doing with his Neuralink program, and that he's interested in that same app that Lux was mentioning that controls the people of China and tells them, you know, when they're sick, when they can travel, if their social credit's good enough to get on the train or buy groceries. You know, where does that Black Mirror end? I don't really know, but he's into that kind of stuff. And he's got shit tons of government contracts. That's the other thing. It's like the government, they're like, oh, we got to investigate Elon Musk. He's so bad guy. Well, all right. Why do you have all these multi-bazillion-dollar contracts with him? And why is the Great Reset, when it comes to automobiles, hinge upon him? And that's so important to, you know, all of the globalist powers that be and Fortune 100 powers that be. And why does he have such exclusive access to all of space? You know, we were uncomfortable having NASA be the only institution that had control of space in this country, and now it's like this crazy guy that smokes weed on Joe Rogan's show bought Twitter. And by the way, don't forget, he kind of owns space and a bunch of our military rocket platforms. I mean, people lost their land to provide some of those rocket launching locations. You know what I mean? Eminent domain seizures for some of that land. And it's like, well, what are we getting out of that? What did we get out of that seizure? You know, what about those families? And well, I guess we get cool stories about how we'll go to Mars someday, because we're gonna fuck this planet up so bad. So that's pretty rad. It's a great trade-off, you know. It's just like they've done such a bad job with space, and I know that's gonna piss some people off. I've got a couple of NASA patriots I have on my show, but I mean, come on, they've been so disingenuous with us about so much when it comes to space. I don't even want to get into the whole thing, but it's like, and now Elon's the guy. Like, I got to look to Elon for energy. I got to look to Elon for cars. I got to look to Elon for my First Amendment right. I got to look to Elon for my cybernetic interface, my Neuralink, you know. And what else? I got to look to him for my X app that will allow me to say whether I'm genetically modified sufficiently and socially viable enough to go grocery shopping or have a kid or whatever the fuck they're going to do with this stuff.
That also makes me very cautious with Musk, because recently NY and I had done a series about the Skinwalker Ranch. And there's a series of documents that are associated with Skinwalker Ranch that the government did, you know, decades-long research at this ranch. but they were using individual aerospace contractors to do this research on the ranch, right? So after these ATIP documents come out, I found one portion of the document extremely fascinating. It more or less said that the people, the general public, no longer trusts government agencies. And so what we're going to do is we're going to put up people that are looking like these crazy, eccentric innovators in aerospace. And then what we'll be able to do is use them as contractors, and then the public will trust what they say because they're not a government agency. So, they got it. And then you look at Musk, it's almost like a cult following in some way, It's just, it fits too close to the narrative that they were spinning in those documents of how they wanted to change things up, kind of give people a hero, but meanwhile, it's for more nefarious reasons.
Well, even the whole thing, like what you're mentioning, I think we're kind of getting at ATIP, I think, right? A little bit with that stuff.
That's in the ATIP docs,
yeah. Now, ATIP, the whole thing of ATIP existing part of it was because of Robert Bigelow. And now, who's shooting Robert Bigelow's shit out into space? Oh, Elon Musk. Mm-hmm. Just that connection right there made me start thinking, oh, who the fuck is this dude? I knew who he was then. I realized he was just some weirdo that people worshipped. But I never thought much about him. But once that came up, I actually started paying attention to who he was. Because I was just like, okay, that's weird. Mm-hmm. That alone just made me question his character. Or what's actually really going on. Because Bigelow's saying he can send shit to Mars for $52 million. But it's being shot out there by SpaceX.
Right.
What the fuck?
You can just smell the crony capitalism and security service lies coming off of this stuff. Come on, man. You can tell if you watch, is it Iron Man 2 or Iron Man 3? There's a moment there where, what's his face from Oracle, Larry Ellison makes an appearance. There's a cameo and Larry Ellison is very much in that Bezos and Musk sort of category. Oracle made and continues to make an absolute killing. They basically own the database infrastructure and hardware, architecture knowledge that goes along with big data, especially for the government and for the military. Their contracts are absurd, absolutely absurd. And anyway, I think he kind of fancies himself like a Tony Stark type character. And I think that's probably what the government would love to portray. And one of the reasons that NASA was rebranded from science nerds that anybody could aspire to be to billionaire philanthropist genius, because we've brought our cultural zeitgeist, our mythology is now primarily comic books. Unfortunately, we had a rich mythology for thousands of years that people would tell around campfires or write into long epics that would require a good vocabulary and the ability to critically think. But now we have superheroes in pajamas and everybody looks to the superheroes as our cultural equivalent of a mythology. And Tony Stark is one of the most compelling characters in there that a human can relate to, because it's not like Spider-Man where you have to by chance be bitten by a radioactive spider. You actually can aspire to be rich and smart and philanthropic and technologically adept and all these things. So you can build a literal hero out of someone like a Zuckerberg or a Gates or a Musk or a Steve Jobs or a Larry Ellison if he had his way, but apparently he could only buy his way into an Iron Man sequel. But how brilliant is that? If you were going to set that up, if you were the deep state or whatever you want to call the cabal, to use Tulsi Gabbard's words, maybe Elon Musk is the perfect setup for that, right? And how would he really do all this stuff? I'm sorry, I believe in brilliance and everything, but and in your spare time, you got time to like have multiple sets of twins, multiple marriages. You got time to make glow torches. Seriously, you got time to make glow torches.
Hook up with Amber Heard and you know, and it's crazy. I totally agree with you, man, about that. It's something that's not right. And it reminds me so much of the stuff they were outlining in ATIP. And like you said, he's become a hero. And that was sort of the plan. Those documents that I'm referring to are from 2001. And then what comes shortly after that? Musk, fulfilling the exact archetype that they're explaining in the document. And the cult following is so strong.
Oh, yes.
That think about this, right? So he can show up to a Halloween party in a costume with a Baphomet head and inverted pentagrams all over it, talking about how this is the beast costume, and the right ignores it. But he just bought Twitter though, so he's gonna bring Trump back. Like, it's just crazy, dude.
Yeah. In this, I kind of went into something. This would be a good example. I think it was like a week or two ago, I released like a short about like what is magic, and it was more of like on the psychological thing, and I do think this is what's even making Elon Musk more of a god to people. I was saying it's as simple, like magic could be as simple as if somebody's watching this show right now for the first time. I never existed in their head. None of us existed. This show never existed in their head. Now it's like you opened up a file. We put, NY Patriot, Bryan, Lux, throw all those things in a cabinet, close the drawer. Now we exist. That's simple as that. We now exist in your mind when we never did. But like now, like as you see, now you could look at the video and be like, oh, you could tell he's Italian by the things he says. He uses his hands a lot. People then start, putting things, characterizing you, shaping you, start thinking who you are, and you become this thing inside these people's minds. To an extent, Elon is over everything. So you think about AI, you have Elon. You think about cars, you have Elon. You think about Twitter, you have Elon. You think about all these things. His name is attached to it. He's like this growing cancer inside people's brains. It's literally just like a growing beast inside people's minds.
There's like a concept of you probably know more about this than me, but there's the concept of the golem, right? And it can be this like empty vessel, if I understand it correctly. But then all this energy gets poured into it until it sort of manifests and becomes a thing. Am I describing that right? Or is that a good metaphor for this maybe?
Yes. No, I think it's very much like... it basically is like a living tulpa at this point.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess so. Cult of personality, right? A cult of manufactured personality.
Yes.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's why Crowley does say, "Why do you practice magic? Because you don't have a choice. You have to." So maybe the whole act of this whole existence maybe is magic in itself.
Well, hey, any magic we inadvertently create is certainly done in self-defense.
Yes, yes, and out of love and
what we have inbound, man. I was talking to Patrick Henningsen about this on Sunday Wire this week. We were looking at this case, this shooting that happened in Colorado Springs, and we were talking about how we take a lot of guff from normies and NPCs and mainstream media cartel. Because we have to spend so much time like deconstructing narratives. And I was like, man, if they wouldn't have all these people that they're calling conspiracy this and denier that, like you wouldn't have to put all these pejoratives on people if you wouldn't suppress all of the information that would allow them to not have to guess at everything. Like you're suppressing different things for different reasons in stories, be they a story they're trying to politicize or one they're trying to obfuscate or downplay. It would be so simple to eliminate all the conjecture and all the conspiracy theory. Just stop sealing up the information and stop letting only corporate agencies reveal and receive the information. You know, you want to go as a citizen, you want to go and get a public records request on just about anything, you're not going to have a hard time.
Mm-hmm.
You want to go get a public records request on, say, Uvalde or Paul Pelosi or one of these highly politicized cases, you're not going to get anything. You'll get nothing. And that's the problem. And then they want to change legislation and policy based on these narratives that we're never able to, as a society, rectify. All we get are the polarized versions of it that leave all this room for the argumentation. And fundamentally, that's a big part of the problem.
Yeah, it's ultimately not about what we see on TV and news or radio or whatever. It's not ultimately about truth. It's about control. Yeah. That's just it, you know. And right. Part of that control is to keep people in a very fearful, pissed off, aggressive, standoffish mindset, and to, you know, create that energy of fear so that, I mean, from a magical standpoint, that can be used for a lot. You know, magicians in the know, they can harness that energy.
I mean, there's a lot of times now when I see shit, like I was even talking about, you know, the New York Post and Fox, you know, always, you know, going on about the same shit. You know, I still catch myself at times even like still thinking like, oh, you know, that would still be nice if that happened, you know, but like now I still try to, or like I think in my mind, the way I deal with it and kind of ignore it now and just don't latch onto it is that I'll think about it for a second. I'd be like, that would be a really fucking funny storyline. Or that would be hilarious to see played out on TV. But then I just let it go because I'm like, it's probably not going to happen anyway. But I'm picturing it in my mind, but it would be funny. You know, that's how that's all I could do is like think of like that being a possible new episode that's never going to drop.
Someone asked me today on my show how I'd feel if Trump was president again, and I pretty much said that. I was like, well, that would be wonderfully entertaining. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I mean, there's a bunch of open goals for anyone that wants to be president or politician. You know, you've got all these like things that you could say you're going to work on, but nobody seems to do that anymore, with the exception of maybe like a Carrie Lake. Saw some action items from her in her thing. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it too, man. It's like, I really like being engaged with the power politics and trying to understand it, but still have, you know, that pinch of salt that I need where it's like, all right. But in doing so, I'm starting to identify like where some of the firewalls are in that system that makes it such that we're constantly stuck in it. And that's been interesting. That's been sort of an unintended side effect to kind of see like where the stop gaps and the firewalls are when it comes to actual representation happening and stopping corruption and stuff like that. And long story short, pretty much too late. Pretty much too late.
We can only try, man. That's
yeah.
That's the best we can do. Trying to
not to be all fatalist about it. There are plenty of things that could and should be done. You know, I mean, look at Brazil. Look at Brazil and look at France right now. In Brazil, there's like 3.2 million people saying, "Wait a minute, we're out here. You know, we're out here in the street because we don't think that election was above board." And then you got in France, you got tons of people out saying, "We would like the country to leave NATO." I mean, that's pretty huge, and you don't see either of those being covered here in our mainstream media. And just kind of, and, you know, it's like, good one on France. You know, I got to give it up for France right now because they're like, hey, actually, we don't want to experience a wartime economy and austerity and fuel crisis because of what's going on up there. So maybe we'll just back out of NATO, you know. So they don't want us to hear about that on our mainstream media here. So, you know.
Oh, and all the stuff going on in Iran too.
Oh yeah. I got protests they're putting down. That's a whole thing, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm probably wishful thinking, but I hope to see that happen in Russia too.
Man, remember 2019? We had massive protests on like every major continent. You know, they were having protests in Ecuador, in Venezuela. There was the yellow vest thing going on in France for a long time. There was stuff going on all over the place. And then COVID came along. That was another one of the silver linings for those that, you know, benefited from that whole thing was they quashed like global, worldwide, pretty much a number of protests that were probably getting a little bit difficult to suppress, because they were so big and so long running.
Yeah.
That's interesting to know.
Like in Ecuador, it was all about fuel prices too. I think that's what it was. And then COVID came along, and then the IMF came in, and it was like, well, we'll give you all these billions of dollars, but these billions of dollars have, COVIDian strings attached to them. You got to follow the whatever the WHO and, these health organizations say. And, that was when it just all got worse, because I think that happened in a lot of places, a lot of hush money going around to put up with lockdowns and shutdowns and mandates and all that crap.
Yeah. Hopefully they don't have another one coming down the pipe here. I'm always waiting for it. I'm just like, tomorrow, what's it going to be?
Yeah. Braced for the next outbreak of monkey butt or whatever they're going to call out for sure. I am very heartened to see that uptake on the new bivalence is way, way, way down. People, especially among kids, people not taking their kids in for the booster updates. So that's good to see. I hope that continues to trend.
Yeah.
You know what
I think the general public probably kind of sees at this point that everything that they were told about this is bullshit.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't take a rocket science to figure out that if you're told that something is 100% effective and going to keep you from ever getting the virus, and then you go and get it and you still get the virus, I mean, anybody's just going to think, well, okay, hold on, this is a lie, and I'm not getting this thing anymore.
Yeah. Especially when it's everyone they know, or like a cruise ship where everybody had to have all the jabs and everything to go on the cruise ship, and then everybody on the cruise ship came off of it with the COVID. How does that happen? Everybody did all the jabs and all the updates. They go on the cruise because it's safe and necessary and effective, and they come back and you got a whole boat full of COVID positive tests, whatever that means.
But the reason for that, though, is because of the one unvaccinated person.
Someone snuck aboard.
Yeah, the one dirty, unvaxxed asshole. He got the entire ship.
We had some dirty organic human sneak aboard the Princess Carnival Victorian Norwegian cruise lines and got everybody with their asymptomatic spreaderness. Oh my God.
Yeah, cut through the vaccine like a knife.
Like a knife. That's right. We need lockdowns right away. Lockdowns across the world. Yeah. No, I don't know, man. I think that the climate lockdown will be the next one, or wartime austerity because of wartime economy, energy crisis, anything. They've got us pretty much set up so that it can be one or multiple dominoes to fall all at once, and they'll just be like, sorry, that thing that happened to FTX, well, it happened to Chase Manhattan too, so we're moving over to that CBDC, guys. We've been giving it to the transsexuals in San Francisco for free for the last 6 months, so we've been testing it over there. They're having a great time with it. They're using Biden's crack pipe program, and they're getting their free crack pipes, and then they go to the sobering center. It's a lovely day we have set up for the CBDC people over there in San Francisco, folks. It's great. Sobering center, you can have free coffee and Doritos, and then you come outside right there on the street outside of this $3.5 million taxpayer-funded building, and you can do fentanyl on the street and attack business owners as they're on their way to their business. But beware, they're carrying mace and baseball bats because so many of you have been naughty, doing too much fentanyl and attacking those business owners. But taxpayers are happy to pay for it. And now CBDC for everybody. Just follow the rules. Make sure you get the jabs and the boosters, and you too can enjoy the sobering center.
And free shopping at Walgreens and CVS.
Maybe you'll even run into celebrities such as Paul Pelosi while you travel the Castro and try to avoid human feces.
Follow the yellow brick road because everyone's pissing on the sidewalk.
That's right. Yeah. They actually have an app. I don't know. I think it should be called Browntown, but I don't know what it's called. But I hear they have an app. or San Francisco that you can kind of map out like where the most human feces is on the sidewalks and kind of route your way around it, you know?
Wow.
Holy.
It's gotten bad.
I wonder if you can like add that on you, like on Waze, where you can like add things that might be around. Maybe when you live over there,
Right.
it gives you that option to add like feces on the
fecal
streets.
overlay.
Take me in the route that has the least amount of feces.
Is it still there? Will pop up if you have to pass it.
Recommend South A Street. Chances of diphtheria are only 10% today. Never mind allergies. Like we're just looking to not step on a needle or get diphtheria.
Well, according to Eric, he says it's called San Francisco Poop Map A.
Okay.
There you go.
You know what I wanted to ask you, Brian? I guess this will circle back to the original reason, the original point we had you on a while ago for a different topic. I was actually wondering in your world, because I can speak for myself, and I think Lux might distill. I still every once in a while, just because of the whole fuck show on YouTube, I still will like kind of check into the whole Kylie Rodney thing. I know you really didn't know anything about the case through those means. I know you kind of followed it through the news or whatever else. Have you heard any like new things or any idea about that case? Like, is your opinion changed since the last time we talked? Have you,
Yeah. Well, I can't say I'm fully up to speed on what's happened, but I did see some links going around that now throw into question, or maybe it's not even a question at this point, but maybe the integrity or the history of at least one of those guys at Adventures with Purpose. So I don't know how much I haven't dug into all of that material yet, but I will think back to my original assessment on Adventures with Purpose, which was that it appeared to me to be completely benevolent. And now if there are, mitigating factors there, I would probably have to rethink about that statement and look at what's come out, because it's my understanding that this guy has one of these guys. I don't remember which guy it was, but it's my understanding that someone in the organization has a criminal history, and it's not necessarily of the benign type. So what that means to their body of work and what that means to that case, I really have no idea. Yeah. But I and that was the thing I was hoping wouldn't happen when we planned to have that talk. I was like, man, I hope these guys don't end up fueling conspiracy fires, because I already feel like I have enough suspicions and questions about this without those guys being another variable to worry about. And if what I'm understanding is true, then those guys are another variable to worry about. And then it calls a lot of that into question. Perhaps. I don't know. I just don't have enough information.
It's funny. I didn't even think of that situation when I asked you about this, but I can't believe I even forgot that, because that is like a new part to the shit show, especially on YouTube, because again, it's something associated with YouTube, right, when you think about it. But no, I was just wondering, because I do think there has been, I don't remember what it was. I thought maybe you might remember. I think there has been a few little things in the actual news about maybe what happened with her autopsy and how she died, I think has come out since then. I just don't honestly remember what exact was said.
Yeah, it has slipped my radar, to be honest, and I think it's probably because we just hit that nexus with it, where it was like we looked at all the stuff, and then you guys dumped some of the tangential stuff on me, and I started looking into that, and I was like, wow, this is a rabbit hole that just keeps going here, and we didn't even have like any autopsy information or anything like that back at that point. So yeah, I'm gonna need to do another dive into that rabbit hole. And hopefully the hashtag current things and weekly crises will kind of slow down so I can take a look back at some of the things that I've covered lately. I feel like we've moved so fast now, it's kind of hard to do some of those deep dives. And I really like doing those. I think it's, important to grab some of those ones and take them as far as you can take them. But this one just gets weirder and weirder. And for me, it's weird because it's like in one of my home counties.
Yeah. It doesn't matter how much time goes on, nothing becomes more clear in this case.
Oh, at all.
And
so
the
weird
stuff with AWP, it's an allegation. I can't say that it's. I don't think it's something that he's ever been convicted of. I think it's something that's an allegation from a family member from years ago. But I find it kind of curious that I don't know, that came out after the Rodney stuff. This whole case is just it's too much. It's too much.
Yeah,
and I never thought I would say that either. But.
Yeah, they have. Yeah, it's like now it's pretty much like any person that was originally any part of the story. There's like a total flip side on everything. It's actually like a complete and the thing is you don't hear anything about it in the news. But if you were to go on YouTube, it's like this insanely, I don't know, insane story that has a lot of shows that sell shit or accept money. Pushing and hashtagging.
And some of them may be pushing intentionally or unintentionally conspiracy candy of some sort, stuff that sounds like it would make sense, and people take it on as like part of the actual context instead of an allegation or a supposition. And then things get weird because, as time goes on, it cements itself to the counter narrative, and people start writing books about it, and things just get more and more messy. And this isn't the first case out of that part of California where like you look into it long enough and you're like, you know what, I'm out. There's too many variables, too many questions, too many things to deconflict that I as a researcher can't deconflict. I'm going to have to pull the plug on this. It's kind of like the JFK effect.
Right.
There was even other things me and Lux were looking at that was just like, I told him, I said, I just think that whole area is a fuck show. Because they're like, even when it comes to like even just like weird crimes. I mean, he sent me a video that's funny that I went to put it on. I was like, I feel like I've watched this before. And then I got to one case and I was like, oh yeah, fuck, that's right. Somebody, and a listener actually had sent it to me prior because like this seems a little smiley face killerish. But like there was like this thing like Auburn, it's an hour away from Truckee, but like you got these people that just like show up in canals. They're all homeless people, but like their family members are like, no, they actually weren't homeless. They didn't really drink. So like these people show up in these canals over there. Then they got these people that just like are like killed by trains, but there's like stuff done to them prior to the train hitting them that could have been the death. And then you see the same exact thing with the trains going on in Truckee actually right now with these mysterious deaths of like kids, but yet they have bodily harm done to them that they know the train didn't do, that makes them question, could they have possibly been killed and then just tossed on the tracks?
There's some
it's like weird shit, man.
There's some crazy tunnels in Auburn. I lived in Auburn for a while, and when I was a kid, and there was this one place where my rocker friends and I used to like to go drink beers, and it was when we were teenagers, and there was one of those tunnels there, and this tunnel is like old school, and it's freaky in there because there's literally like, I mean, if you were stuck in there when a train came through, maybe you could survive by placing yourself up against the wall. If you were slightly overweight, probably wouldn't work. I'm not even sure if it would work at all. It's just like there's hardly any space in there. Of course, I'm going from memory as a kid, so it made, perception changes and all that stuff. But those things were, and it was long enough that if you were in the center of it and you felt the track start to vibrate, and you booked it, you could probably get out before the train came through. But it was just long enough that like if you tripped and fell or you didn't book it, you might very well get run over. But anyway, that would be, I could see that as a means of, disposing of evidence, put it that way. If something like that was going on, there's multiple locations in Placer and Nevada County where train lines are sort of like that and tunnels are like that. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't put it out of the realms of possibility.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's just a lot of weird stuff going on, I think, in that area.
Weird vibes, too, as a kid. As a kid that used to ride his BMX bike in like the little, back alleys and streets. So it was a pretty rural area when I was there in the late 80s. There was, and, again, kid perceptions, but I always got these weird vibes from some of the more like weird overgrown places or the random like ponds that were just places we found on our BMX bikes, and like I don't know.
I remember that shit as a kid.
Definitely some creepy vibes.
I remember.
It's weird how when you trust your gut like that, 99% of the time it's right.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just bizarre. And I'm not going to go into it too deep, but when it comes to the AWP stuff, my wife, she had seen one of their videos months before what we're talking about. She said, there's something not right. I can't say what it is. And I didn't even see it. I was like, oh, come on, you're overreacting. She was like, no, I'm telling you, something isn't right. And I got a feeling that there's something kind of weird behind some of the people in this group. I couldn't believe it when it all came, the stuff that came out. I don't know, again, if it's true, but just funny that her gut kind of, thought something was wrong. And that was months and months ago.
Wow. All right. Well, trust the intuition on that one. You got a good one there.
Well, thank you very much, man. I just wanted to kind of like go back to that and just see if you had any, any new theories or ideas on that. I don't like I said, there hasn't been much really since the last time, but I just wanted your opinion.
Much more research to be done on that one.
Oh,
and
sure,
man, I hope someone else does it and I don't get sucked into it, because I'd really like to just receive that one on a silver platter. I think we took that one about as far as, my bloodhound nose is willing to go, but I do get very interested when I see new information. So who knows? May go back down that rabbit hole one of these days. But I sure hope some intrepid YouTuber out there figures this out in a way that we can all agree upon.
William Ramsey. William Ramsey.
There you go.
There we go. Nice. There's a plug for our boy William Ramsey. And if you don't mind, I think we'll just wrap it up here too. We're about an hour and a half.
Great.
I thought that was a great talk. I had a lot of fun too. I'll be totally honest with you. I didn't know anything about the FTX stuff, so this was all interesting for me. This was great.
Oh yeah. It's stay tuned, man. It's a little bit heady at first, but I think it's going to turn into something much bigger. It's the ramifications on it are just like, what the hell is this really happening? I mean, I truly think it's Epstein level stuff, but they're already trying to softball it. So we'll see where they're going to go with the narrative on that one. But yeah, man, I'm around. We'll talk about it more. I'll get you on my show soon.
Sure.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your time and the invite here. I've thoroughly enjoyed hanging out once again.
Yeah. You want to let everybody, you want to plug your stuff or?
Yeah, sure. AlternateCurrentRadio.com. That's where you find the Boiler Room, Sunday Wire, Daily Ruckus, Mystical American Patriot Society, the Oddcast, and more, all the stuff that we got going on over there. And then TNTradio.live. That's where my Monday through Friday show is. And you can find all the archives up there under episodes on the main website link, on all the good podcasting platforms. It's called The Bryan McClain Show. That's BryanMcClain on TNTradio.live. And I'm live Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to noon Central Standard Time, and the Boiler Room goes live at 8 p.m. Thursday nights Central Time. You can find us on YouTube for that, as well as Spreaker and AlternateCurrentRadio.com. Thanks for all that, you guys, and I'll look forward to our next meeting.
Definitely, and thank you, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, everybody definitely go check out his stuff. Like I said, I've been on there too, so definitely go check it out. At least check out those episodes. Check out the links in the bottom. I'm definitely trying to stress to check out our Element server. It's in the bottom. Go check it out. You don't need an app. It's web-based. Also, if you're watching it live, you already know that we have a new YouTube channel, but if you're not watching it live, I want to stress that please go check out our new YouTube, Rejects and Friends. That'll also be in the links. We changed out the last one, 4 times the charm, I guess. So yeah, go check that out. Sub to that. We're doing pretty well so far, knock on wood. So yeah, some of our stuff, it's better to watch. Go check out YouTube. Hit that sub button. And thank you again, my man, for coming on. That was a good talk. Always is. And until the next one, everybody be well. Later.